y'all, what's good? It's your girl GOLDYNAPS and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is very exciting because as you can tell, we've done another protective style. Today's video is going to be all about these boho faux locks that I made from scratch to match my natural hair color. Protective style videos, if you cannot tell, are literally my favorites because I'm always challenging myself to do and try something new. If you've been here before, then you've heard me talk about the fact that it is virtually impossible for me to find braiding hair that matches my natural hair color. A few months back, I challenged myself to make a braiding hair color that matched my natural hair color, and when I was able to successfully do it, I went ahead and installed some knotless boho braids. And a couple weeks ago, I was like, I want a protective style, but I want to try something new. Let's see how far we can push this hair color that I made. I love faux locks. They're really easy to install. They look really good as they get older, whereas some hairstyles can just start to look frizzy and messy. But girl, the downside is most faux locks are made with textured hair. The only thing that I had figured out how to do is blend some braiding hair to make a color match mine. Now the challenge was, okay, well there isn't, and you can't just blend together Marley hair. And I tried, okay? Trying to blend together like curled, kinky hair was not working. I just got a glob of knotted mess. So I had to hop in the lab and figure out how am I gonna take braiding hair to textured hair to then make it into a lock, to then install it and also make wrapping hair, okay? So it was a lot of moving parts, but you know what? Obviously I did it. So we're gonna go over everything that it took me to do this hairstyle, and honestly, it was a lot. Right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you I've never spent more time on a hairstyle. It required a lot of prep, it required a lot of trial and error. I'm really happy with the result. I don't think I would ever do this thing again though. Maybe if I just had a lot of time on my hands and I split up the prep process from the install process, because really I had to break everything down into like different steps and do a step a day. So first day I did all the hair blending. The next day I actually made the locks. Third day I did all my parting. Fourth day I did my install. But that's a lot of time, I'm not gonna lie. The end result is beautiful, and because of all the work I put in, I'm damn sure gonna keep this in for at least a month, at least. At this point, I just want this to be my hair because I did all this work to put it in. But I'm hoping that when I take it down, I can really preserve the locks that I created and then just reuse them and not have to do the whole like making the lock process all over again. All right, so let's get into how I actually made these locks. First things first, let's talk about the hair color. I'm not gonna go too in depth because if you watch my ash blonde boho box braids video, that video is very, very specific about color and everything that it takes to create the color. I will give details, but we're just not gonna go way too in depth because making the locks is really the main point of this video. Okay, so here is the custom braiding hair that I like to make. It's actually, I mean, it matches super well, like, ate that shit up. It's actually a blend of 3 colors, which is 27, 4, and silver. I have a very in-depth video on like how I came up with the color, how I made the color, all that kind of stuff. Basically it's like 1/2 27, 1/3 4, and then a 1/6, which is like just a leftover bit, which is silver. Blend those together so it's like one cohesive color. We don't like chunky highlights over here, okay? I want it to look like one thing. But yeah, basically just blend those proportions of colors together until I get this and it's like a perfect match. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. When you blend all of that up together, you end up with this ashy blonde, ashy brown kind of color. But making the color really wasn't what I was nervous about when it came to whether I could do this style successfully. It was really, how am I gonna take the texture of braiding hair, which is very soft and smooth, and create a lock out of it? I knew the only way I was gonna successfully be able to lock the hair up is if I figured out how to make it textured. And after a bit of trial and error, the solution ended up being Flexi Rod. I've spent all day making these locks, transforming this braiding hair into these locks. Yesterday all I did was like actually make the braiding hair blend. Why is the lighting like that? It's because my braiding hair's in the way. Yesterday all I did was make the braiding hair blend, and today my mission has been to actually create the locks. It's coming along real cute. They're looking real good, turning out exactly how I wanted them to, but it is definitely time consuming. It took me 5 hours to make 35. So it's a lot of work. But I'm adding texture to the braiding hair using flexi rods, and I have about 35 flexi rods this size. So that's the batch size that I'm working in. Did my first batch, working on the second batch. I'm taking like, and obviously there will be in-depth videos on every freaking platform. The amount of work this is, there's gonna be hella content about this damn hair. I don't care if it turns out ugly or not, you'll like getting these videos. But all I'm doing is taking about a section this size. Like, this is the only, girl, can I talk? This is the only amount of hair that you need to create a lock this size, which is kind of the size I wanted to go for. Obviously, do a bigger section if you want a thicker lock. I personally like my protective styles to be kind of flat though, so I want to make smaller locks. I think styles like passion twists, faux locks, butterfly locks, those kind of things have the tendency to look a little bit bulky, so I want my custom locks to be on the thinner side so that I could do more of them without them being super bulky. So all I'm doing is taking that section and wrapping it around the flexi rod like so. And obviously to add that texture, we're gonna have to dip this into hot water, but I'm wrapping all 35 flexi rods first before dipping them. And honestly, I'm probably gonna take a break in a second. I think I'm gonna wrap and zip everything and then eat some food while they dry. It's not as textured as Marley hair, but it was a really good start. All I had to do for each lock is flexi rod a piece of braiding hair, and you actually didn't need a whole lot for each lock. I literally used about this much for each one. Once I had made the braiding hair into a curly piece of hair, now it was time to turn it into a lock. And getting the texture I wanted turned out to be a lot simpler than I thought it would be. I ordered these lock crochet hooks from Amazon, and they were all that I needed to create a locked up texture. I personally only used one. It is the single prong in the size 0.75. The basis of the lock is just a 2-strand twist, and then I used the lock crochet hook and stuck it into that twist vertically until I created knots and bunches. So ultimately, all you have to do is keep sticking your crochet hook into that twist until you get the texture that you want. You can choose to lock up the entire twist, but I chose to have curly ends. Once I made all of my locks, it was time to install. I'm gonna be honest, initially I did not make enough, which was very frustrating. It required a lot more hair than I thought it would, but initially I made about 75 locks and I ended up having like 82 parts. So ended up having to make a bunch more locks. But once all the locks were made, all we needed to do was install. And for the install, I used the exact same method as I did when I did my soft locks. All right, y'all, I have not been this excited about a hairstyle since I did my boho knotless braids in this same color. At this point, I honestly feel delusional. I've been doing this hairstyle for so long. It's the longest I've ever spent on a hairstyle. I don't even know how many hours at this point. So at this point, I'm tired. I want to get this over with. But we're going to get into how I have been doing this style. I'm loving how it's looking, but we are going to get into how I've been installing these custom-made boho faux locks. If you've watched my soft lock tutorial, we are going to be using the exact same method, but with a couple of little tweaks so that we can get these boho bits. So first thing I'm gonna do is take down the section we're going to be working on. For the method that I like to use, you're going to need a latch hook. You're gonna take one of your faux locks and slide the loop onto your braid like so. Then take your latch hook and push it into a loop on your braid that's close to the base but not at the base. By doing this, you're kind of avoiding having that bulkiness at the root. Now go ahead and latch your natural hair into the latch hook and pull it through the loop on your braid. One of the challenges with making faux locks out of braiding hair was that textured hair is kind of the best hair to do that hairstyle. So like Marley hair, and braiding hair just doesn't have that type of texture. So to create the locks, I wrapped a bunch of the braiding hair around flexi rods, and I honestly just decided, because I didn't have anything else, for my wrapping hair, I was also going to use the flexi rodded braiding hair. So here is a piece of that flexi rodded braiding hair. I cut it in half because honestly the braiding hair is really long, and this amount is just a lot less to wrap, and if you need more, you can always feed more in. So now we're going to place our latch hook again into a loop on our braid. It can be at the base this time or just close to the base. I'm just going close to the base. And we're going to put our wrapping hair onto our latch hook. And then go ahead and pull that through. I'm trying to be very meticulous about how I wrap because I like my protective styles to kind of lay flat against my head. So as you can see, like the top of these locks is very thin. I'm wrapping very tight at the top of the locks and starting with like a minimal amount of hair and just feeding in if I need more hair to cover up more of the like bulky areas. But girl, these locks is on flat. You're gonna take one end of the wrapping hair, gonna do this side, and you're gonna start wrapping super tight at the root because you don't want it to come loose. And start wrapping downwards. For that boho effect, just go ahead and like lift out the other end of the wrapping hair because it's already curled, so just lift it out and you'll have a cute little curl. And I can already tell I'm gonna need more braiding hair, so I'm gonna feed a little bit more in. To do that, all you're gonna do is line up the end of the hair that's already in your lock and the end of the additional hair that you want to feed in. So you're just gonna line up the ends, and then literally all you have to do is keep wrapping. And it'll secure itself. So you don't have to overcomplicate it. And then you just keep wrapping. So it is pretty simple. I'm gonna trim off any little scraggly ends. And honestly, this is my first time using synthetic hair to do anything boho. Usually I use human hair, but we're gonna give it a go. I did not want to waste human hair like experimenting if this didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. I've heard that synthetic hair does tend to tangle up, but it's a chance that I'm willing to take, girl. It's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the rest of my locks, and I will check back in with y'all when I'm done. And after all that work, here is the finished look. And girl, I don't even think I counted how many hours I did, but it was at least 7 hours a day. Well, for like 4 days, 28 hours, something crazy like that. But it really wasn't all going towards install. It was a lot of prep work and time inputted into getting the look that I really wanted. Ultimately, I am really happy with how the style turned out, even though it did require a lot of time commitment. But if finding your hair color for protective styles is something that you struggle with, then if you want to invest the time, this is something that I definitely recommend you do, because the finished look, girl, I mean, it's nothing like having your protective style match your roots. Like, that is not an experience that is normal or common for me. Like, I have to do all of this legwork for that to be a possibility. So ultimately, I'm very happy with my decision to spend 28 hours doing my hair. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.